Evan Scott lived within the quiet hum of his routine, a carefully constructed shell against the world's unpredictable currents. At 27, his graphic design job on the foggy outskirts of San Francisco was a welcome anchor. Early starts, diligent work on logos and layouts, timely retreats to his Mission District apartment. No noise, no drama. His boss, Madison Parker, was the storm to his calm. 31, sharp-witted, she commanded attention. Her tailored blazers and sleek ponytail an armor of competence. Their professional dance had been precise for a year, until a Thursday afternoon when the music abruptly changed. He was lost in a wireframe, headphones muffling the office's distant drone. When a presence materialized behind him, not a sound, just a shift in the air, he turned. Madison was there, leaning, close enough for the clean, citrusy scent of her perfume to prickle his senses. Her presence was a heat he wasn't accustomed to. "Evan," she said, her voice a low murmur, meant only for him. He pulled off his headphones. The sudden quiet amplified his heartbeat. "Yeah?" She glanced around. A quick, almost nervous flicker, then leaned in, just a fraction more. His breath hitched. A small, involuntary gasp. "You free tonight?" The question hung, thick and heavy. In the space between them, Madison never ventured beyond work. This wasn't small talk. This felt like a precarious precipice. Probably just heading home for some ramen and Netflix," he managed, the words thin. She pursed her lips, a silent debate playing across her features. Then, a firm nod. "Perfect. Come over to my place for dinner. I'm trying a new recipe." Her eyes met his. A flicker of something raw and exposed, then vanished behind a familiar, enigmatic smile. "Could use a taste tester." "Sure," he heard himself say, surprised by the ease of it. "Just dinner with the boss, a team thing." Her smile deepened, a subtle curve that sent an unexpected warmth through him, before she rattled off her address and walked away, her heels clicking a rhythmic retreat. The air where she'd stood felt charged, still holding the ghost of her perfume. That evening, he drove his Civic through the golden haze of the setting sun, a cheap bottle of red clutched in his hand. Madison's house in the quiet residential neighborhood glowed with an inviting warmth. He knocked. She opened the door almost immediately, a simple black dress clinging to her figure, her hair loose, a rare cascade around her shoulders. She looked softer, more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. "Hey, come on in," she said, stepping aside. The rich scent of roasted garlic and herbs enveloped him. But as he stepped into the living room, his stomach plummeted. The dining table gleamed under flickering candlelight. Set for 4, not 2, 2 figures sat waiting. An older man with silver hair and a stern face, and a woman with a kind smile, Douglas and Linda Parker. Before he could react, Madison's arm slipped through his, pulling him flush against her side. Her touch was a jolt, too intimate, too possessive for mere collegiality. His pulse thrummed. "Mom?" "Dad," she announced, her voice steady, but with a strained edge he hadn't heard before. "This is Evan, my boyfriend." The word boyfriend hit him like a physical blow. His mind went blank, every nerve screaming. He stood frozen as Linda beamed, rising. "Oh, finally. We've been dying to meet you, Evan." He shook her hand, an automated gesture, forcing a smile. Douglas merely nodded, his eyes cold and assessing, sweeping over Evan from head to toe. No handshake, no warmth, just an unspoken interrogation that left Evan feeling exposed. Madison's grip on his arm tightened, a subtle tremor passing through her, and in that instant, he understood this wasn't a joke. This was a desperate plea. He was in it. His heart hammered, a frantic drum against his ribs. But he didn't pull away. Instead, he squeezed her hand. A desperate, silent promise to play along. As they sat down, the candlelit room felt suffocatingly small. Linda's enthusiastic questions about his work, his life, were a flimsy veil over Douglas's penetrating gaze. 6 months, Madison said quickly when asked how long they'd been together, her fingers lacing with his under the tablecloth. A silent, almost painful squeeze. Douglas's questions cut through the air, pointed, relentless. Graphic designer, volatile. What about long-term stability? Salary, enough to support a family. Each word a test, a deliberate probe into Evan's perceived inadequacies. Dad. Madison cut in, her voice sharp with a desperate edge. Can we not turn this into an interview? Just asking practical questions. Sweetheart, Douglas replied, his gaze fixed on Evan. You deserve someone stable. After what happened with that doctor, Madison stiffened, her face tightening, and she stared down at her plate. The unspoken history hung heavy. A palpable wound. Evan felt a sudden, fierce protectiveness. He met Douglas's stare. Sir, he said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. I make enough to live comfortably. Stability comes from hard work and reliability, not just a paycheck. Douglas grunted, unconvinced. The rest of the meal was a tense performance of polite, strained conversation. By dessert, Evan's appetite was gone, replaced by a churning unease. Afterward, as Linda cleared plates, Madison tugged him towards the back porch. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of jasmine. She leaned against the railing, her body language conveying a profound exhaustion. I'm so sorry, Evan, she whispered, her eyes meeting his, unguarded, vulnerable. For the first time all evening, I panicked. My parents have been on me nonstop after my last breakup. Her arms rubbed absently, as if to ward off a chill that wasn't there. He bailed when things got real. I just needed a buffer tonight. A single tear tracked a path down her cheek, catching the faint light from inside. She didn't bother to wipe it. He leaned beside her, the cool railing a physical anchor. Part of him raged at the ambush, the manipulation. But seeing her so exposed, her polished facade shattered, a different emotion surfaced, a deep, aching tenderness. It's okay, he said, his voice rougher than he intended. He resisted the urge to reach out, to brush away the tear. The closeness, the raw emotion, felt too fragile, too dangerous to disturb. Evan. A word in my study. Douglas's voice cut through the screen door. Cold. Sharp. Madison's eyes widened, a fresh wave of panic. You don't have to. It's fine, Evan said. Though his stomach twisted, he followed Douglas into the study, a room of dark wood and leather, where the desk lamp cast long, oppressive shadows. Douglas motioned to the chair opposite him, then folded his arms. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, son. I don't hate you, but I don't trust you yet. Madison's brilliant, strong, but she's got a soft spot for people who need fixing. And you, a young designer, still figuring things out, what can you offer her besides passion? The heat rose in Evan's chest, a burning indignation that fueled his resolve. This wasn't just about Douglas, it was about Madison and the quiet integrity he was fighting to build. Sir, he said, his voice even, I'm not here to sell myself. Madison doesn't need fixing. She inspires. What she needs isn't a perfect resume. It's someone who shows up, who believes in her, even when things aren't easy, not someone who runs. At the first sign of trouble, Douglas stared, unblinking, for what felt like an eternity. The silence stretched, taut, suffocating. Finally, he leaned back. A subtle shift, a crack in his armor. Prove it. Then, Evan nodded, standing. As he walked out to the porch, Madison was waiting, her hand reaching for his. In that touch, a silent covenant passed between them. This wasn't just pretend anymore. It was real, and it was complicated. The weeks blurred. What began as an uneasy alliance evolved into a delicate dance. Texts, at first strictly professional, gradually softened into casual invites for coffee. Groceries, he told himself it was just to keep up appearances, a necessary continuation of the lie. But a deeper pull was already forming, subtle as the fog creeping in over the bay. At the office, their professionalism remained ironclad, but the boundaries thinned. Madison would bring him coffee from the good machine, her fingers brushing his as she handed it over. A fleeting, electric contact. Fuel for the grind, she'd murmur, her half-smile holding a new, private meaning. Then came the international rebrand, a career-defining project. Madison, now creative director, assigned him the challenging digital assets. He poured himself into it, fueled by a simmering desire to prove himself, not just to Douglas, but to himself and to her. Late nights became the norm, Evan sketching wireframes, Madison lingering by his screen. One evening, as the office emptied, she leaned in, pointing to a rough logo draft. That's interesting. The asymmetry, it's risky, but it could work. Her voice was close, a warm breath against his ear. Mind if I sit? They worked side by side for hours, the air charged with a shared intensity. Her knee brushed his under the desk, a small, accidental intimacy that sent a jolt through him. He froze. But she didn't pull away. Absorbed in the glowing screen, her insights sharpened his ideas, his hands moving with an instinctive synchronicity, refining, tweaking. By midnight, a polished concept emerged, a logo that evoked the city's hilly streets, fluid, adaptive. This could be the wild card, she whispered, leaning back, eager but triumphant. Her gaze held his, a shared recognition of their creation, a silent language passing between them. The presentation day was a storm front. Madison led flawlessly, but the client execs remained uninspired. Solid, one said. But we're looking for something that pops. Madison turned to Evan, a quiet trust in her eyes. Evan's got an alternate take. He walked them through his deck, his voice steady, the logo, evolving with the user, mirroring dynamic growth. The room quieted. Then, a ripple of excitement. "This has edge," the exec declared. "We'll go with this direction." The office erupted in cheers. Madison pulled him aside, her eyes shining. "You nailed it, Evan. That was all you." Her hand found his. A tight, celebratory squeeze that felt like a secret affirmation. Across the room, Douglas, an investor, caught his eye. A subtle nod, a flicker of something almost akin to respect. Weeks later, a rival firm offered Evan double his salary. A senior role. The offer letter burned in his inbox, a gleaming escape hatch. But the thought of leaving, of cutting the fragile thread that now connected him to Madison, felt like a deeper betrayal. That Friday, they met at a quiet bar, jazz playing Auntie. He laid out the offer, the perks, the temptation. She listened, swirling her wine, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she set her glass down and met his eyes. "If you left," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "would you regret it?" The question pierced through his carefully constructed defenses, hitting the aching hollow of his loneliness. He ran a hand through his hair. "It's a huge opportunity. But no, I don't think I'd regret staying more. Leaving feels like running, like I'm trying to prove something. But staying, that's about us, building this, whatever it is, together. Not because I have to, but because I want to." A profound silence settled between them, heavy with unspoken desires. Then, slowly, she reached across the table, her fingers warm as they closed over his. Evan felt the full weight of her quiet trust, the unspoken invitation to truly choose. "I don't want you to stay out of obligation," she murmured, her thumb tracing the back of his hand. "If this is your shot, take it. I'll be fine. Just be you. That's all I've ever wanted. No pleading, no guilt. Just that raw, benign honesty." It broke through everything. He squeezed her hand back, a promise in the tightening of his grip. "I'm staying. Not for anyone else. For this." She smiled then, a genuine, radiant curve that lit up her face. She pulled him into a hug across the table, glasses clinking, the awkwardness dissolving into a profound sense of rightness. The weight lifted. He wasn't proving anything anymore. He was choosing. A year later, at the company's anniversary bash, Madison, now a commanding creative director, called his name for lead designer. The applause wasn't just for the title. It was for the battles won, the risks taken, the trust built. Madison caught his eye from the stage, her smile a silent testament to everything they had forged. That night, as the party wound down, she pulled him aside near the bay windows. "Proud of you," she whispered, her hand slipping into his, fingers lacing. An unspoken intimacy. It was in these quiet affirmations, these shared silences, that their chaotic journey found its meaning. Months later, they married in the backyard of her family home. String lights draped the trees. Wild flowers dotted the improvised aisle. Madison walked toward him in a flowing white dress, her hair loose, eyes locked on his. He stood in his suit, heart pounding with a joy that had replaced the initial shock. Linda beamed, tears in her eyes. Douglas, standing tall beside her, his expression softer than Evan had ever dared hope. The ceremony was short, heartfelt. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. His, a promise to always show up, no matter the storm. Hers, a vow to trust in the quiet strengths they discovered in each other. Rings slipped on, simple bands, at the reception, under a tent, fragrant with grilled seafood. Douglas rose for a toast. When I first met Evan, he began, his voice rough with emotion. I didn't believe he was right for my daughter. I saw a young man still finding his way. And I worried. He paused, his gaze finding theirs. But over this year, I've watched him stand firm, not with words or flash, but with actions. Evan, you showed me that true value isn't in titles or bank accounts. It's in resilience, honesty, and the quiet faith you place in someone else. His eyes, now undeniably red-rimmed, met Evan's. I'm proud to call you family. To Madison and Evan, may you always choose each other. The applause swelled. Douglas approached, placed a hand on Evan's shoulder, then took Madison's hand and placed it in his. No more tests, no more doubts, just acceptance. As the sun set, the band struck a slow tune, Madison in his arms, her head nestled against his shoulder. They swayed under the lights. Thank you, she murmured, for staying through the questions, the pressure, everything. He pulled back just enough to see her face, a grin spreading across his own. Thank you for tricking me into that dinner. If you hadn't, I'd still be that quiet guy at his desk, too scared to chase what he wants. She laughed, the sound light and free, pulling him closer. They danced like that, the world fading to just them. The quiet intensity of their bond a palpable force. In the years that followed, they built their life, brick by brick. A cozy house, weekends exploring the coast, careers that challenged but didn't consume. They didn't rush into kids. It was enough to have each other. A partnership where flaws weren't deal breakers, but parts of a whole. Douglas became a surprising ally. Looking at Madison now, across their kitchen table, or in the glow of a sunset drive, Evan still marveled. That one white lie, born of panic, had sparked something real, a love that didn't need perfection, just persistence. He was grateful every day that he had chosen to stay, not to prove a point, but to build a life. In the end, that's what mattered.